wages. So Teresa, over to you.
Thank you, Esther, and thanks very much for having me here. And as you should know, in Dublin, it's never sunny. We have a very overcast day. You're not missing the weather, I would imagine. Um, Thank you. Introduce myself. I'm Teresa Hannick. I'm the head of the service division of SIPTU. And SIPTU is the largest trade union in Ireland. It's a general trade union, so we represent over 180,000 workers across the economy in health, transport services, industry, and community services. And in SIPTU, we fully support the directive statement that adequate wages are not only an essential component of the EU model of social market economy, they're essential to guaranteeing adequate working conditions in a fair and resilient economy. Next month, we will be celebrating the 21st anniversary of having a minimum wage in Ireland. It came in 2000, and we've been dealing with the minimum wage for many years. As you may or may not have been aware, the minimum wage is set by a low pay commission in Ireland, which is government and the other stakeholders, which is the employer representatives, and ETUC, which is the Congress of Trade Unions in Ireland. In September last year, ETUC pulled out of those discussions because of the low percentage increase that was put forward by the Low Pay Commission. Nevertheless, the Low Pay Commission issued an increase, and so from the 1st of January of this year, the minimum wage in Ireland is €10.20 per hour for workers over 20 years of age. The only other restrictions are really your age that restrict what you do there. We would believe in SIPTU that the minimum wage does not give workers an adequate standard of living, and it falls well short of what we would consider an adequate income for workers, or a threshold of decency, as we call it. Workers on low pay often find themselves struggling to pay rent, buy food, and other necessities. Ireland's economy is particularly impacted by low pay, which means workers experience inadequate working and living conditions, earning below a minimum adequate income. We have a high proportion of low-paid employees in the economy. Almost 20% of workers in Ireland, that's 1 in 5, which would be 300,000 workers, are on low pay. And in Ireland, we would classify low pay as workers earning less than €12 per hour. So it is a big difficulty for us when the minimum wage is set as €10.20. I represent workers in the services division of SIPTU, and we would represent workers who are probably the most severely impacted in low pay and inadequate income. They are workers who work in the hospitality industry. Over 50% of workers in the hospitality industry in Ireland suffer low pay. In the wholesale and retail, again, that's over 30%. In arts and culture industry, which is a big industry in Ireland, is 34%. And over 30% of workers in contract services suffer from low pay. We have very little, as some of our other colleagues would have talked about, collective bargaining and sectorial bargaining. We have, and Esther would have pointed out, we do not have collective bargaining per se in Ireland. We have very limited sectorial bargaining. And it means, especially these workers, not only do they suffer low pay, precarious work, but they have no right to be represented by a trade union, which makes it extremely difficult. And these are workers that particularly have been to the forefront during this crisis and this COVID crisis. And when we look at what is a threshold of pay, what does it mean for you to have it? It means that you can have an acceptable minimum standard of living. And we can do all kinds of formulations what it is. We calculated it's around $12.30 an hour would give a worker, a single worker, being able to survive in Ireland in the standard of living that we have in Ireland to do it. At this moment in time, we have over 300,000 workers who find that difficult to achieve. They are often forced to do without certain essentials so they can make ends meet. And just to give you an example of some of the testimonies of workers that I represent, and I particularly look at the workers that aren't covered by any sectorial bargaining in Ireland. And these are just some, I'm going to keep them short because I know we have a time period on it, so I won't go into so much detail, but I would just read some of the testimonies we have done with some of our members. My name is Eamon. I work in a wholesale distribution centre. I'm a picker. I am paid €10.20 per hour, which includes my shift pay. So that's the minimum rate of pay he would get. I work 2 different types of shifts, from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. or from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I would like to be able to afford to buy a house. My partner and I live with our 2-year-old in a rented accommodation. One day I would like to be able to paint my son's room, but I can't do that because I don't have my own home. Another worker is, my name is Rachel. I work in a hotel in housekeeping. I am paid €10.20 per hour, again, the minimum wage. I find it difficult to manage on the wages I earn and rely on family income support. Family income support is a government, a social welfare payment to give to families who fall below a certain standard. To supplement my wages so that I can pay my rent and feed my children. I could not survive on my wages alone. The work I do is very physical, but I don't complain, as my roster could be changed and I would then need to pay a babysitter to mind my children. On the wages I earn, I can't afford childcare. My name is Tanya. I work as a contract catering operative in a private nursing home. I am paid €10.20 per hour and I work 39 hours a week. Every week it's a struggle to survive on the money I earn. Every cent of my take-home pay is accounted for to buy food and to pay my rent. I constantly worry that I will have an emergency situation where I will need money, such as an appliance breaking down or health issues. I have no savings and I don't know where I will get the money. I cannot afford to miss a day in work. I work in a low-paid job and there is no sick pay scheme. And there are times when I've gone to work when I was sick, because if I don't go to work, I will not get paid and I may not be able to feed myself or pay my rent. I have gone to work when I was sick. One time I was very ill, but I could not afford to take the time off. I could have lost my job and my employer found out I was that sick. And it probably was the wrong thing to do, but I could not afford to lose a day's pay. And they are the struggles, even though we have a minimum wage, to survive in this economy. Thank you, Esther. Just trying to keep the time short.
No, thank you.